Okay, so today I decided to test the brand new A7S III against the mighty A7 III and the A6400 APS-C Beast with 4K footage, 1080p footage, the sharpness, just side by sides, and some of the good old, 400% juiciness of that pixel peeping for all you pixel peepers out there. But anyway, let's get into this video. So what's going on, my friends? It's Jason here, all the way from down under. I hope you're all doing really well wherever you may be. Now, I hope I don't butcher his name, but shout out to Sarielden. Sarielden? Yeah, I hope that's correct. But thanks for telling me to put a 0.00 timestamp in the description below, and I'll actually add all the timestamps in the video itself. Incredible. I had no idea this was actually possible. So, I hope you guys actually know this. I'm the dumb little dum-dum out here that didn't actually notice, but thank you, Sarielden. Man, I really hope I'm not getting that wrong. I'm sorry. But yeah, really, thank you for that. Anyway, as mentioned in the intro, I tested the A7S III and the A7 III and the A6400 with both 4K 25 frames per second, 1080 25 frames per second, and 1080 at 100 frames per second. And obviously I kept the A7S III in 4K 100 because, well, why not? These two were my last cameras. This is my newest A cam now, the A7S III, and I decided to test them to see, satisfy my curiosity and show you guys what I found. So the A7S III was shot in XAVC-SI, the highest codec, all intra, with 4K 25 at 250 megabits per second, whereas the A7 III and the A6400 was shot in just regular XAVC-S, 4K at 50 megabits per second. Now, which is the highest bitrate on those two cameras. They are also in 8-bit codec, as you probably already know, and the A7S III has the 10-bit 422 codec. Now, the first comparison, I put the A7S III on the left-hand side and the A7 III on the right hand side, and both cameras look quite good in 4K. Yes, there was actually slight color difference between these two. They were both shot in HLG3, and the white balance was set exactly the same on both of these to make sure things were actually even. But yes, the color science is different between these two. Which one do you actually prefer in terms of the colors? Now, yes, my skin actually is quite tanned, quite orange at the moment. We did just come back from the Gold Coast Surfers Paradise, so I was sunbaking a lot, and I'm Asian, so I'm naturally yellow, orange, whatever you call us Asian skinned people. I'm not usually completely white like I usually am. So my skin has a little bit of tan to it. So this could be my natural skin color, as you're probably seeing. I've got the A6400 right here, and this is the A7S III right here, but you saw the comparisons between the two. Now, I did actually zoom in on both of these at 400%, so the pixel peepers can actually see there actually isn't too much difference between these two cameras. If anything, the A7S III is a little bit sharper. I did notice the dynamic range through the hair, so if you notice through this side of my face, the hair, you can see a little bit more details, and there was a little bit less grain in the darker shadows. Now, when comparing the A7S III to the A6400, the results were actually quite interesting. The 4K footage on the A6400 actually seemed sharper than the A7S III. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the A6400 was just focusing on my eyes better, but damn, the A6400 looks really good. Now, there obviously is a dynamic range difference and grain difference between the two, but I am really happy how that actually performed against the A7S III. Now, HLG does seem a little bit more saturated on the A6400, but the overall sort of white balance does seem to be quite similar in terms of the colors. Now, when it comes to the 1080p footage, now this is when the A7S was just much better, blew both these cameras out of the water. Against the A7 III, it's so much sharper at 1080, 25 frames per second. You can see here, it's just sharper. It looks much better. If anything, the A7S III almost looks like 4K. Also to mention, this is a 4K timeline. So this 1080 footage is upscaled to 4K. So you are seeing a little bit more than you actually would if it was a 1080 timeline. Now, when it comes to the A6400, you can see it is much, much sharper than the A6400. It does actually look like the A6400 has digital sharpening in it because it does look, that sort of fake sharp. Yeah, it's not really that great. 1080 footage on the A6400 just has never been good. It's never been that great. Neither has the A7 III as well. But I mean, if I was to shoot 1080 footage on the A7S III, I could actually use this. You know, it's very usable. It looks really, really good. Now, when it comes to the slow motion, both these cameras, the A6400 and the A7 III, were shot at 1080p because that's the highest you could do in these cameras, whereas the A7S III does 4K at 120 frames per second. Now, obviously I'm in PAL, so I used 100 frames per second, and the results were just, it was just easy. It was an easy comparison. The A7S III looked tons better when it come to the zoomed in footage. It's just so much better. Now, that is probably one of the biggest reasons why you would actually purchase the A7S III, is that you can do 120 frames in 4K. But what do you guys reckon? Which footage did you actually prefer? Was there a noticeable difference here? I mean, some of you guys are actually probably watching on your smartphone, so you may not actually see too much difference. But if you are watching on your computer or a smart TV, then you will notice a fairly significant difference. But is it enough to justify spending that much money? I mean, for me, it's not about the tack sharp image. It's more about the dynamic range. It's about the 10-bit codec. It's about 4K 120. It's about low light performance, the new port doors, better autofocus. Trust me, the list goes on. Even as something as simple as these things I did in my last sort of video. And the port doors, I mean, what were they thinking on the A7 III? My God, that sucked. And to get them back in, man, yeah, I'm just super glad that this is now a B cam. There's so much that they actually fixed from the A7 III to the A7S III. Now, I am going to be doing a comparison of the A7S III to the A7S II. One of my friends has the A7S II. He's the one that just bought the FX9. If you haven't seen that unboxing video, it's the A7S III unboxing. I'm actually going to be doing a comparison on the A7S III and the FX9. That's going to be a really good video to see, especially because the FX9 is pretty much a low budget cinema camera. It's incredible when it comes to image quality. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. That would be absolutely amazing. Comment below if you want to see any more comparison videos of the A7S III and the A7 III. I've got a few more in mind that I need to do. But yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you already haven't. And as always, make sure you hit that bell notification so you can be notified when my next videos come out. Other than that, guys, my name's Jason Morris, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.
Move for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flick up.